want to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brandflex here. If you're watching the neutral and forest craft lists, I think this will probably replace the intro. But basically, I've split these videos into separate videos just because I recorded the forest craft and the neutral craft videos in one go, and then I looked at my timestamp and I was like, I am not going to do like 4 straight hours. And it's going like 3 hours of like just straight yapping and killing my already strained voice from being sick, probably. So yeah, these videos will all be split up. If you guys want to see the other videos, then go ahead and click on them. Otherwise, please enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the actual video itself. Moving on to Forest. Forest has a lot of interesting cards. Not the greatest, but at least they're interesting. The first card is going to be a 1-mana spell. When you play it, you essentially repeat the effect X times, which is your combo, and it grants a random enemy follower on the field -0, -1. So this is essentially an infinitely repeating Ambush from Above, which is okay, honestly. So Ambush from Above obviously requires combo 3 and then deals 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions. So when you get that buff from Ambush, or when you activate the combo from Ambush, this is already dealing only 1 less damage than Ambush would. And it's technically more efficient of a deal 3, if that makes sense. So this card, I don't know if it necessarily replaces Ambush, but this card, actually it might be played in combination with Ambush, but this card is basically just like another version of Ambush. Instead of dealing so like against Barrier, as long as you kill the Barrier minion, Eradicating Arrow is better than Ambush is. But if you're just trying to clear the Barrier to begin with, then Ambush is better. So I think there will be a question of whether or not it's worth playing Eradicating Arrow over Ambush, because the cap on this card is way higher than Ambush, because Ambush can only deal 2 twice. But for example, if you're playing against something like Amalia, and you manage to kill Amalia early, if you play Eradicating Arrow like after like 5 combos, so like let's say that you're playing Roach, right? So you play your Deepwood, you play Carbuncle, you play Cairn, you play Fairy, you play another Deepwood. That's already 6 combo. In that case, this is dealing -6 to enemy board, whereas the Ambush is locked dealing -4. And also because this card can't overkill, you might be able to kill off like a 3 health minion randomly, or maybe even snipe off the Amalia for fun if you get unlucky. Whereas with Ambush, if you hit the Amalia, it's just bad no matter what. I mean, obviously with this card, hitting Amalia would be bad no matter what anyways as well. This might hit Amalia like all 5 times, but so would have Ambush in that scenario. So this card is not that much better than Ambush, but it is pretty good. So I think it might just replace Ambush straight up for Forest for the most part, but we'll have to see. I'd say I didn't get the rating, so I think this card is going to be a 4 out of 5 for Forest and Constructed, and maybe like a 3 out of 5 in Take 2, just because, well, I say that knowing that. I think if Forest loses rerolls to Take 2, this drops from a 3 out of 5 to a 2 out of 5, but as long as Forest has an insane amount of rerolls, this is like 3 to 4 out of 5, just because you do get the cycle if you push the reroll button a lot, because you get more Glades and Godwoods and all that stuff in Take 2. The second card is going to be this 2-mana 2/2 Devotee of Unkilling, Fanfare. Select an enemy follower and give it -0, -1. When you evo it, it is another -0, -1. I think this card is a 3 out of 5 in Constructed. Anything below 4 out of 5, by the way, for Constructed, means that it's unplayable in Carbuncle Roach, but it is playable in like different Roach decks that you might want to play. So this card is terrible in Carbuncle Roach, in my opinion. Could be wrong, but that's how I feel about it. But if you want to play like Tempo Roach, or like you want to play Tempo Forest, Control Forest, like all these other forests that don't rely on the insane Carbuncle engine, this card is actually quite good, because you can think of it as the Dragon card's Fire Newt or Fireworm, which is also a 2-mana 2/2, deal 1 to 1 enemy follower. It's the exact same thing, except this actually has an evo effect where it repeats it. And again, against Barrier minions, this is technically worse if you can't kill it, but against everything else, it's the exact same thing as deal 1. So it's just a very strong 2-drop. It's just that Carbuncle Roach has way better cards to play than this, and nothing but Carbuncle Roach is going to be good for the set. So it's like a 3 out of 5, assuming that we find something else, but basically not playable. The next card is going to be Bearer of the Fairy Blade. This is a 2-mana 1/3, and whenever a allied pixie follower, so aka fairies, enters the field, it gets +1 damage, or +1 attack. This card is going to be a 1 out of 5 in Constructed, and a maybe like 2 out of 5 in Take 2. In Constructed, this will never live. ever, period. There's no ambush, so it can't be protected. There's no storm, so it can't go face. There's no rush, so you can't immediately benefit off of it. You have to evo this to get rush, and would you really want to evo 1-3 to make it 3-5? Not really. Obviously, it can get stronger if you play multiple fairies with it, so it becomes like a better minion to trade with like a bigger minion, but then like that's not even that good. So 1 out of 5 constructed. Maybe in take 2 you get a cheesy, like a little quirky, like play this on turn 2, and then you have to play a bunch of fairies to clear board, and your opponent happens to not have a board wipe for this card. And in which case, this card is decent because it gets a lot of face damage in for really efficiently, but that's like not going to happen very often in take 2, so yeah, not really a relevant card. Bestial Swipe is a 2-mana spell. It's going to be selecting an enemy follower on the field and dealing 4 damage, and if it's your third, it's a combo 3, you draw a card. This card I think is going to be a 5 out of 5 in constructed and a 5 out of 5 in take 2. Deal 4, draw a card. Like deal 4 cycle is incredibly strong in my opinion. I guess the arguments against it is that it would be competing with Cairn on a Cairn turn, but this doesn't have to be played on the Cairn turn, right? This can be played on any further turn, so you can be playing this on like turn 6 or 7 where you don't have your Roach combo yet. And Forest honestly lacked a lot of these direct damage removal effects, so being able to play fairies and then be able to Bestial Swipe something, like you no longer have to play Lily. That's the biggest thing. This card like lets you keep Lily and keep an Evo for cards that you might otherwise have to use, like save Lily for. So like let's say for example, you're looking at Angrea, and the Angrea has swung and cleared one of your minions. So like let's say that you played a Fairy Tamer, and the Angrea swings the Fairy Tamer, and so now it's a 6-4. This card lets you clear that Angrea without having to play Lily, which was a huge issue for Force in the past. So not only are you going to be up an Evo point, you're up a Lily, so you gain the card, you're also just cycling. So it's like Lily, it's a side grade of Lily, but a side grade of Lily is really, really good. So I think this will be replacing some cards in Carbuncle Force or even just Force in general. 5 out of 5 to take 2, because again, combo 3, draw a card, clear something is incredible, in my opinion. Hamlet of Unkilling is a 3-mana amulet. When you play it, you choose a card in your hand, discard it, and draw 2 cards. And when you engage a card, you select an enemy follower and give it -0, -2. So this card is kind of a side grade to Garden of Allure, which is the 2-mana gold spell where you can fuse 1 card to it. If it draws 1 card on base, and when you fuse something to it, it draws 2 cards. This is essentially that, but like 1 extra mana, deal 2, but also you can't continuously use the fuse effect. I'm not sure how I feel about this card, just because it's like okay. 3 mana, draw 2, discard a card, maybe like a fairy, and then you deal 2 damage. So it's like if you look at Seraphic, the question I guess is that if you could play Seraphic Tidings and deal 2 damage to a minion, would you play Seraphic Tidings? So in my opinion, this card is a 3 out of 5 in constructed. And in take 2, I think it's a 4 out of 5, just because in take 2, there are a lot of scenarios where you would want to burn a poorly drafted card. Because keep in mind, this isn't limited to force crap cards like Garden of Allure is. This is any card that you have. So if you have a really bad card that you're forced to take in take 2, this lets you get rid of it and draw 2 cards and also clear the board, which is a lot better in take 2 than it is in constructed, where you're constantly building towards a condition, especially with forest. So it's okay, not that great, but I think it's at least a buff to forest to take 2. The next card is going to be a 4-mana 4/4. Last words, add a deep wood bounty and a fairy to your hand. I think this card is a 3 out of 5 in constructed, and probably like a 3 out of 5 in take 2 as well. It's a decent body, not the best. Deep wood bounty in take 2 is just more combo filler. If you have a roach, which you probably will because you have a billion rerolls, it'll be okay. But otherwise, like, it's too slow and constructed. You don't really care about 4-mana 4/4. Like, if you thought that the bear swipe was bad because it competes with Cairn, this is even worse. So playable, but probably not that great. You'll probably see a lot in take 2, but not in constructed at all. The first Force Legendary, Kruelle, the Unkilling. She's going to be a 4-mana 1/3 fanfare. Give all enemy followers on the field -0, -2. She has ambush, and once on each of your turns, if you give minus defense to an enemy follower, you restore 1 defense to your leader. When you super evo, you give your opponent a crest, and the crest is on their turn. You give it on their turn. Whenever the enemy summons a follower, they gain -1, -1. So essentially, actually thinking about it, I don't know if this ambush effect, like, does this count for the enemy turn? because then you might be able to heal when your opponent plays a card. But regardless, this countdown is actually only for 1 turn, because remember, the way countdown works is that it ticks at the start of your turn. So essentially giving your opponent the countdown, when they start their turn, it's already at countdown 1. So it's not a 2-turn stall, it's only a 1-turn stall. So it's actually a bit worse than you might expect. But this card, I think, is still probably the best 4-mana follower in the game by like a pretty okay margin. It's ironic because I think in Constructed, this card is barely a 4 out of 5. But in Take 2, I think this card is a 5 out of 5, just because of the massive tempo swing you get. The issue with 4 costs in Shadowverse 2 is that they're 1 mana lower than like where the really, really broken cards are. So like Zirconia, I think this card competes with Zirconia as the best 4-drop. But the reason why this card is probably better than Zirconia is because you don't need to Evo her to get the insane effect that she gives. And she also gives you a lot of healing, she protects herself with ambush, and not a lot of classes can deal with the ambush minion on turn 5. So she's just really efficient in that sense. She also gives Force that healing that they lack in Constructed. So if you play her, she gives you 1 health, and then the next turn where she probably lives, you get another health. And then you can also cash her in for 1 damage or a trade on turn 5, which is really useful because that ping does matter a lot for Force when it comes to like eking out certain clears. So if you like imagine a world where you play Kruelle into Glade, nothing survives that, like turn 1, turn 2 combo. Like anything in the game will get fully wiped. Glade obviously fully wipes everything anyways, but you can also just argue that Kruelle lets you like save your Glade for later when it's more efficient. So she isn't really important for Carbuncle Roach because Carbuncle Roach already has so many powerful tools, but she's strong enough of a 4-drop that you could argue she's still playable. So I wouldn't craft her if you want to play Carbuncle Roach, but if you manage to pull her, you can tech her in and see if she's actually that good. Because I think she is probably the best 4-drop, which makes it even sadder that Carbuncle Roach doesn't want to play her. The next card is going to be a 6-mana 5/6 follower, Supplicant of Unkilling. Fanfare, give all enemy followers on the field -3 defense, and when you Super Evo it, it replicates the ability. This is going to be a 3 out of 5 for me in Constructed, and a 5 out of 5 for me in Take 2. I think this card is supposed to be what answers Wardhaven in Side Games' eyes, because it's -6 HP overall, which ironically doesn't even clear most of Wardhaven's cards because of the way that Wilbert into Aether Super Evo works. Like they have way more than 6 HP, but it's a start. He's alright. Like you can't play him in Carbuncle Roach is the main issue, and there's still not enough support for non-Carbuncle Roach Force to be good. But if there was a deck, like if Control Force was really a thing, this card would be really, really insanely efficient because it's a 6-mana 5/6, deal 3 to the entire enemy board. Like for example, Dragoncraft has that 1 6-mana spell that reduces a card by 3, which is probably worse than this card because you get a fat body, and when you Super Evo it, you repeat it. So it's just really, really efficient board clear. It's just a shame that Carbuncle Roach doesn't need that efficiency. So Take 2, 5 out of 5 Take 2, 3 out of 5 Constructed. Not much else to say for that. Izudia is the second Force legendary we're getting. It's going to be a 8-mana 6/6 Fanfare. Select 1 enemy follower and give it -0, -6. And when you evolve it, you gain Annihilating Onslaught to your hand. Annihilating Onslaught is going to be a 6-mana spell. At the end of your turn, you reduce the cost of it by 1. And what it does is that it deals 6 damage to the enemy leader. And if you have an allied Izudia in play, it deals 20 instead. So there's a lot of jokes with this. Unfortunately, this is literally just a worse version of Carbuncle Roach. But you could argue that since it only requires you to bounce Izudia or just draw another Izudia, it is less, I guess, hand dependent than Carbuncle Roach is. I guess just as a rating, I think this is probably like a 3 out of 5 in Constructed and a 4 out of 5 in no, 3 out of 5 in Constructed and like maybe like a 3 out of 5. No, I would say 2 out of 5 in Take 2, just because you do need 2 of these for the max value, or you need to bounce it. But if you bounce him, then like you're losing that 8/8 body or that 9/9 body that you've evoed into. So this card has some meme potential. The issue is that it is slower than Carbuncle Roach, but again, there is some potential because you could probably win with this on like turn 11, turn 12. So it is a better win con than Rose Queen, because like playing Izudia and then bouncing with your Godwood Staff or your Carbuncle or with your Bug Alert or even just drawing a second one, it's not too hard to do. And being able to play both in 1 turn, if you have Carbuncle, then you have 11 max mana, and you have a Super Evo. I mean, you need a Super Evo for that, which is going to be really unlikely. But basically, like, if you play this on turn 8, in like 4 turns, you'll be able to win. So turn 12 you win with this card, assuming you get another one, which will be very likely with Force Draw. This card's alright, like you can play 1 or 2 of these cards and probably be fine, but I guess in the end, like a 5 mana deal 6 to opponent is pretty good for Roach because you can close out games a lot easier. And if you play 2, which obviously requires an Evo twice, which is really, really inefficient for Forest, you can do 12 in 1 turn, which is honestly pretty good as well. So it's a card with some potential, but I have too small brain to find that potential as is. And the last card we have is going to be a 9 mana 4/6 Congregant of Unkilling. It is going to have the effect of when it enters the field, you summon the exact copy of it, and the copy gets -1 defense. So if you have a clear board, you get a 4/6, 4/5, 4/4, 4/3, and a 4/2 with Rush and Ward. I've seen people say this is the worst version of Amalia or Gensetsu. I guess I agree that it's worse than Gensetsu, but I think it is better than Amalia. Because with Amalia, you gain a bunch of 3/2s, but with this card, you don't gain the quote-unquote value of a 3/2 until the very last one. So you can also Super Evo this like Amalia, which gives you even more power. This card is meant to be... Okay, so I guess in Constructed, this is a 3 out of 5, and then in Take 2, I think this is a 5 out of 5. I think in Take 2, this will shatter some backs because it's such an efficient card to play. Like, if you play 2 of these in a row, you will have a 4/6 and a 4/5 left over for the most part in most games. Because you'll trade the 4/4 to 4/2 down. Maybe you have to trade most of them in, but it's just a lot of stats. Like, it's like 20 attack with like, what, like 17 HP or something down the line. It's very, very efficient, but the issue is that in Constructed, it doesn't do enough because... Actually, in Constructed it's okay, because the idea is that you play Izudia, and you play Congregant of Unkilling, which lets you rest board control, and lets you stall a bit more for the Izudia spell to decrease its costs. And the issue with that is that turn 10 is when you die to unconditional OTKs like from Carbuncle Roach and Rune and even like Izudia from not that I think Artifact Portal is gonna be played at all next set, but like you would die to those things. So that's the reason why this card is not a 5 out of 5 in Constructed, is because the turns to kill or like the inevitability of this game is around turn 10 for even the slowest decks, like for their consistently such high roll. So if you can't win before then, or if your card power spikes at that point and it's not like an insane power spike, it's just worse. Take 2 obviously is different, which is why it's a 5 out of 5 in Take 2, but in Constructed, you're gonna have a bad time, I think, unless you're lucky with the enemy draw. Wow, it's been 30 minutes, we just got the sword. Let's pick this up.